This is a conversation I've been wanting to have for a couple of years. I have very close friends sitting here with me. I've got Seth Bartlett, Joseph Sojourner.
Trouble.
Welcome. Thank you for being here. If you don't mind, give a quick synopsis of both of your roles, how you guys are involved with SALT, and kind of what you do professionally.
Well, my name is Joseph Sojourner. My friends call me Sojo. I live in Atlanta, Georgia. Professional emceeing, been doing it for over a decade now. And so, yeah, getting a chance to kind of work with organization in the front end to really catch the vision, and then making sure that I can carry that vision through no matter how long that conference happens, to make sure that the crowd has clarity. And I think clarity matters so much when it comes to events that have so many moving pieces. So that's what I get to do.
Yeah, we call you kind of our navigator, our guide.
Yeah, navigator is a great word.
Yeah. It's so cool. Seth?
He's so great at it too.
Thank you.
I'm the producer for SALT, and I have the privilege of getting to produce lots of different events throughout the year. And this is just one of my favorites, to work with Luke and Sojo on bringing together all the creative elements for it. What that looks like is we engage early on, sometimes 8 or 9 months out, and we'll develop a skeleton run of show and direction based upon like theme and narrative for the event. And then I'll work on the execution of all those pieces leading up to the event, and then onboarding everyone that's going to be a part of the event, whether it's Sojo or speakers, anybody that's going to be part of the program, making sure that we're all heading the same direction.
You build, Seth, an amazing team around you. We talk about this a lot, that, producer is not necessarily the one coming up with all the ideas or having to execute it all by yourself. You really do surround yourself. What you just walked through, that process, includes so many people, even just theme development.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about that process, how that comes about, who you invite in, who you don't invite in.
Sure.
Because you're keen on, especially in creative brainstorming sessions, you're really big about can't be too many people or else the ideas get lost. Talk a little bit about.
Great point. I love a creative culture. And I think my biggest secret to success is by surrounding myself with people who are way more smarter than I am. And I've always said that as a creative producer, I'm not usually the one that comes up with the creative ideas, but I've found a way to synthesize and connect things, or connect people. And so we have a host of very creative people that pour their gifts and skills into SALT every year, from theme development to the openers to all these different creative pieces that we have. There's lots of different folks that are involved in that process. And even just here on site, as we were producing this year's conference, several of the production guys have been pulling me aside, and they're like, we just love how collaborative this whole process is. Like, all of us get to speak into it to make it better. And I really firmly believe that's the way to produce the best events.
Go ahead.
Would you say that his superpower is charm? I mean, as logistics forward as you are, when people ask me, like, what makes Seth so special? Because I always tell people, like, you're one of the best producers I work with. And I work with a lot of producers. Yeah. But I'm like, you have a way of charming everyone so everyone feels special. And everyone feels noticed and seen, which is hard to do with creatives, especially.
Sure.
And you just have this way of putting everyone at ease. So, like, when everyone gets in the room, everyone gives their best.
Yeah.
But I think it's because you're so charming. It's just something. And I know it's like natural. You probably don't think of yourself like that. But I just want to tell you, like, you have really high woo, I guess is the technical professional term.
Okay, strengths fine.
It's woo. Woo's off the charts.
I feel like you're wooing me right now. This is great. Here's what I would say to that. And a lot of that's probably birthed a little bit about how I'm wired, is creativity requires risk. And risk are really scary to take or to verbalize. So whenever I create like a creative meeting, and we have a brainstorm meeting like way out before an event, and I get a bunch of people in the room, like, that's the parameter. Like, this is the safest place, and I want everyone to feel really safe offering any idea or contribution, even if it's silly. I have a good friend of mine who's been working with us in the past years. He's wildly creative, and he it's just idea after idea. 9 out of 10 of them will never see the light of day. But it's the fact that he's able to just keep them coming and not feel any kind of risk with saying them, that one of them will spark the thing that becomes the
And it may not even be his idea. It may be something that sparked this next idea, and he knows it got someone, and he loves that. He loves, like, letting people iterate off that.
Oh, yeah.
You just spoke on risk.
Yeah.
I'm going to jump to this. I think one of the interesting things about the two of you, especially over the last couple of years, so we've been doing this together for, 5, 6, 7 years, something like that. And we've really played into risk over the last couple of years. I don't know if you want to set that up and then let him talk about that, or...
Yeah, we've taken some creative risk, and I'll say, not all of them work, which is okay in my book.
Yeah,
like, I love...
Well, we've said, let's push the envelope so that we can push this community up.
Yeah.
And so if we aren't willing to take risk, how can we encourage our community to take risk?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, just like to what you said, Luke. I part of my comedic wiring is taking some risk and self-deprecation and owning stuff when
Yeah.
it doesn't work. And I think it's part of this community that and why they love it so well. We talk a lot about we're all imperfect and we're trying our best to be creative, but let's own the things that don't work.
Yeah.
I love that. It's actually like sometimes that's more, fulfilling to me. Like we play a video that we want to be absolutely funny and it gets crickets.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that didn't work, but we gave it a go.
So I want to talk about risk specifically in a practical way with Sojo. Last year, you had this, I think, idea and planning session of like, let's just put Sojo out in the audience. You've done a lot of breaking the fourth wall. You've really, especially with our community, we want to be a community far more than we want to watch something. We want to engage. Talk about, Joseph, that risk of you going into the audience. What are you thinking about when you walk out there?
Which I'm prone for risk. I absolutely love it. There's a piece of me that's always like, anytime I can make myself vulnerable to a crowd, the same way we all love watching bloopers to our favorite show. Like I'm like, yes, I like Seinfeld, but I like Seinfeld bloopers probably even more when I'm chuckling. The crowd wants to know that you're not in control. And I'm in control of so much as the host. It's like I'm pulling the levers, but there's a moment when I can give the crowd a tip of the hat and say I'm not actually in control right now, and there is a chance for me to fail. And crowds are so keen in knowing, like, oh, he has no safety net right now. And the way they lean in and buy in is absolutely, you can't create those moments if you plan them. Like, it's really when you go off script and they know you're off script. So I always tell people, like, if it's perfect, the crowd will do this at the end. If it's imperfect, they'll all come up and hug you. And it's just something about, no one really is that impressed with perfection. They want to see authenticity. They want to see real. And more importantly, they want to know, I got to witness you take a risk
and get through this moment, right? They got to go on the journey with you. Like,
which is why I acknowledge a failure. I'm like, if it fails, I'm gonna laugh on stage. Like, I'm gonna laugh and say, this game isn't working the way we talked like it was gonna work. But the crowd always comes up to me afterwards. It's like, oh my gosh, I had a moment just like that. And I'm like, we all relate to imperfect moments way more than perfect moments.
You were so positive in those moments because we've seen over the years, and not just at SALT, other events that we've gotten a chance to be a part of, things bomb, and you're the only guy on stage. And unlike a video where we can just kind of move on, you have to go recover the bomb.
What do I usually think they're funny? I do think failing is funny.
It's hilarious.
You got a quick story on that?
Oh no, I just say, like, he is so good at what he does. I love working with Sojo. And we've done this for a long time with lots of events, but I have high degree of trust. Because this man shows up prepared. A lot of people like to wing it, and this one here steps in the moment with preparation. So I like to be prepared. I know that he's prepared. So then in some of those moments, I'll sandbag a little bit and not tell him something I'm going to do. And I'll wait till he's on stage and throw it at him just because I want to see how he reacts.
That's true.
And I know he doesn't always enjoy those moments, but to his earlier point, I think it works. I think people relate to that.
How do you train for that? Like early on in your hosting sort of cycles here, did you like have a bomb and go, I don't know how to pick it up? How did you learn?
Well, I started in theater, so I think that my directors would change scenarios and say, this character, let's try him today like this. And so I would have to reimagine. But like when I'm working with young hosts, I oftentimes will say, let's prepare for what you're going to do in the next 5 minutes. And then while they're doing it, I will throw a different curveball in there, because I tell them, like, hey, there's so many factors. There's sound, there's lighting, there's the audience, there's you forgetting a line, there's your confidence monitor going out. All these scenarios, what would you do in those moments? And it really sometimes comes down to you just saying, I always say hosting is like riding a wave. Sometimes it's a perfect ride, and everybody's like, "Ooh, that was pretty," and it's like, "That was pretty." Your transitions are perfect. The band comes out, hits their cue, and other times you wipe out, and everyone's like, "Oh," but it's exciting to watch. And so it really is. You got to ride the wave. You can practice so much when it comes to how I'm naturally wired. I am wired as spontaneous naturally, so I tell people who are a lot more precise, who like to be more planned, I would say, hey, you're going to have to put a lot more work into being ready for spontaneous moments. People who are wired to be spontaneous, they're going to just naturally be okay thinking on the fly.
And I think Seth has learned to build around that as well.
Yes.
I love living in those moments. Like, that's where things are at their especially when things aren't going well. I get so excited.
It's kind of my arch nemesis out there. It's kind of, in my head, I picture him as like, I don't know what you're going to do, but I know you could attack me at any moment. Yeah. And I kind of like that.
And you like that risk.
I like that adventure.
So you've obviously got some guiding principles on how to kind of lead in a host moment. Seth, I know personally you've got some guiding principles on
Mhm.
how you program. What's one or two of those you can
Sure.
highlight?
I'll build on what he just said about, hosting's riding the wave. I intentionally, in any kind of session that I'm programming, I think about it with as much dynamism as possible. I like to create moments, and you can't sustain moments. And so a lot of times we try to program everything at a 10, and then sometimes that backfires.
That's so good.
So I like to lead especially if I'm like opening a conference for the very first time, and we got to break down this wall between folks on stage and folks in the room. I love to lead with humor. I just feel like it's a great handshake to an audience, and especially if there's some self-deprecation involved. Um, I think is a great way to warm up you to a room, and it puts everyone at ease. It's like an icebreaker, right? It's just kind of a way to kind of set everyone back, and be relaxed and enjoy that. And then from there, I just look for other key moments where you can accentuate or highlight a moment that's memorable. I read a book a long time ago called The Power of Moments that still
Great book.
I
Should be reference.
reference,
Yeah.
and they obviously are kings, at studying all of it. But when you think about the things that are memorable to you, the remarkable things of your past, you have these little moments that you can recall. You don't remember all 3 days of a conference,
That's right.
but there's something that stood out to you. And so we intentionally try to program into that by leading with something that's big, because the book also talks about your first impression, your last impression are the two greatest ones that you'll take with you.
Yeah.
So when you have those kind of core principles, when it's appropriate to lean in to some of those moments and give it a little bit more intentionality.
I remember you and I had a great conversation. It was maybe right before COVID or right after, and we were talking about our
Speaking of
schedule.
COVID, I love the cough. That's
Yeah, those
really nice timing, right? Yeah.
And we used to do a midday session. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And I think it was actually that book when you were like, "Hey, Luke, this whole like beginning and end, like, can we just end with beginning? The middle is going to get overlooked. It's
Yeah.
going to be." And we never. I don't think we ever called it a wash session, but we were like, we just can't be as intentional. There's just not that highs and lows. So it's neat to see that. I want to ask Joseph, Sojo, we've done some of these icebreaker humor like moments, and a lot of them have rested on you. In this conference, specifically this year, you started off the whole conference asking people to stand up and kind of admit falls and be vulnerable. Seth has this principle of lead with humor. Let's break down walls, but you get to watch those walls break down.
You do.
What do you see in communities, congregations, audiences
Yep.
when you get to see them?
It doesn't matter the room. I think everyone wants to be talked to like they are cool and fun. And so if I'm sitting with 30 people in a ballroom in an expensive hotel, those 30 people want me to talk to them like a friend, and that I think that they're capable of fun, the same way that an audience here would want that. And so I think once you really believe, like, I want to have a good time with you, and people feel that, they will rise up to the occasion. So I think in your early days, you're hoping that the crowd will do something. And the further along you get in this, you realize how you see the crowd is how the crowd will see themselves. And if you're like, y'all are a fun crowd and we're going to have a great time together, sure, they might be shy at first, but the reality is they're like, if he sees us as fun, then we're going to be fun. And I would say very rarely does a crowd let me down. And this crowd, night one, you ask them to stand up, you ask them to laugh together, you ask them to love each other in this way over these next 3 days. And they just, if you cast it clear enough and you believe it with your whole heart, they believe it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty special. It's I hate to try and act like it's all sappy, like it's like all like love, but it does feel intimate when you're up there and you're looking at them and they're looking at you, and then you get a chance to go down there afterwards and walk and talk and hear their stories. It is an intimate experience.
Well, and
you care about
that book that Seth just referenced, Power Moments, they talk about shared experiences and the sort of energy and chemistry that happens between, we go to the movies to laugh together, not just to laugh, right? And it's that common experience.
Yeah, building on what he just said and what he referenced earlier about riding the wave, like we do that throughout the conference. So we've got like a plan coming into it, and after every session, we're adapting. And it's just like, where's the room? Where are the needs? How do we set a speaker up for success based off of where the room is? And like we make little tweaks here and there. Right before the session this morning, we were making some tweaks and changes just because of what we were kind of feeling, the needs and response, could be for those. And so be adaptable and flexible. A lot of times when you have your plan, you get married to your creative. You just love your creative so much. And I love it when team holds it very loosely.
I was just going to bring this up. Like, what happens when you feel like you've over curated or there's it's not right?
Well,
Not over-curated, but
we rely a lot on humor and comedy, and that takes a lot of collaboration to make it right, so it works. And so if you come into that process with like, hey, this is what I think the punchline is, it's not going to be the best product.
Yep.
And so to humbly offer it to everyone else, and to be in a room where everyone's trying to punch it up and make it as best as possible, like gives me so much energy, because it's the idea that wins. It's not who brings the idea.
Yep.
And I feel like that's fostered really well, but I think it's based off a lot of the trust that we've had over years of experience together.
And you have an understanding of comedy.
Well,
we were talking earlier, and he was saying like he enjoys listening to comedy podcasts. But I would say when working with producers, there's either producers that are really, really good with the details, and then there are producers that are great with details, but also understand writing. And I think with him, I get to steal some of your lines and act like they're mine, and the crowd's like, "Oh, he's so witty," and I'm like, "It's actually just Seth's witty. He's actually witty and funny himself, and it's your attention to comedy that makes it really easy to write with you because you'll say something, and even if I tweak it just one word or two words here and there, I'm like." It's great to be given so many golden lines and moments. And I agree with everything you just said. I think comedy is less. It's easy to do more. I think when I started walking with true comedians, the John Chris, they taught me like, hey, it's just too wordy. Like it's not gonna be as funny because it's too wordy. You need less. Like it's about being clearer and faster and clear and make sure your punchline is clear. And so for me, I think it's easy when I'm working with people who actually understand those concepts because I was natural and powerful, but I wasn't necessarily natural with comedy. So I had to kind of learn the art of why is this video not funny?
Yeah.
It's looked funny like on paper, but now that they're delivering it, something's off.
Something's off. Yeah. Yeah. That's happened once or
And
twice.
you're so good at being able to be like, is this line, let's talk, this line needs to be changed. And I'm just like, oh yeah, that's it.
It was funny at midnight when we wrote it that one night, but like today, it's not that fun.
Now we're all like, well, who?
Right. And just building on that, like one of the things I love is, as a producer, you're the one that's giving direction, right? And so I try to own as much as possible. So at any point if someone comes up and says, what's the direction, I can just be able to, give it to him in that moment.
You gotta know that vision.
To equip him. But the moment they're on stage, roles flip and we're now serving where they're going.
Yeah.
So the direction's there, but if they go left because they're feeling something, we all, production, team, crew, we're pivoting with them and serving them. So that's happened quite a few times where there's like a moment where Sojo's felt a different, prompting or leading, and I see it developing. So now I'm relaying to the crew, hey, hold on here. I think we might be going left.
Yeah. And you know him enough, and you spend enough time together where you go, I think I know where this is going to land.
You're 100% right. You're 100% right.
In the limited time we have left, I would be remiss to ask. We've talked about, I know you're a student of comedy. You've gotten me onto a couple of amazing podcasts that I will now text him and be like, dude, this episode, what? And, comedians who talk about comedy or whatnot. We talked about the book.
Yeah.
I'll let Sojo, you go first. What books, resources, inspirations, sources, podcasts, where do you go to level up humor, level up MC skills? Where do you go to get ideas?
Well, it's interesting. So for me, biographies are really good because I'm a host. So my job is to always be thinking about the people in the seats and the complexity of their stories. So like this year I read Matthew McConaughey's book and Viola Davis's book to kind of hear two contrasting stories done really, really well. But it's in those perspectives that I'm able to be like, if you put me in a world that that's with artists or tech people or pastors or kids, I'm able to pull from so many stories of being like, okay, there's moments that meant a lot to them. So let's see if we can recreate moments like that. I love books like Creativity Inc. And I love those kind of, but I think for me, I really realized that when I fall in love again with the human's journey and their highs and their lows, it makes me a much richer host.
Let me interject real quick. You get a chance to interview a lot of people on stage. Does reading books like Viola Davis and Matthew McConaughey, even though you're going to go interview a Rick Dempsey or someone else, you get to maybe hear something in Matthew McConaughey's story and you go, let me journey down this path a little bit.
Yep. And the hardest part, like I love these podcasts, is we could make these long form if we want on stage. Unfortunately, I only get 10 minutes with Rick. But as he's talking, all I'm thinking is, oh, that triggers this. And I wish I had 30 more minutes with Rick. Yes. But in the end, you kind of figure out how do I tailor this and make it nice and neat versus Trish.
You don't want Seth to be like, bro, you went 10 minutes long.
Now everyone's got to be cut after. You got to respect all the creators.
It's also trust.
Now.
Also trust, yeah.
It's never happened.
That's for him to care about all of them. Like, I don't know. I'm just playing.
Wait, let me say this real quick because there is something about, I know we're laughing about this, but there is something about on the tech side, on the producer side, if someone, he said the script flips and it's now your moment, we're following you. Yes, you have the power to say, I'm going to totally ignore that clock. And we've been around communicators to do that, to host moments to do that. But you have to have a awareness and empathy for everything else that was planned and created, because every minute you go over, something else may now be on the chopping block, and he's having to make real time decisions to go. Okay, the band. We've had sessions where the band can't come out because someone's gone long or a moment's gone long, and so that's such a good point to highlight.
There's a
where we're laughing
to the overall. Like I think that sitting with him and understanding the overall vision of the session and sitting in those rehearsals and knowing if I go long, then all the work they've done for that hour rehearsal is out the window. They just wasted their afternoon. They could have got a nap in, and now I think once you really understand that, you realize like, if I need to do, I can only pull this lever if it's an absolute necessity. Now, there's moments where I'll pull a lever and say, we got to extend this like one more minute. And I think you're so good at like feeling that and being like, you're absolutely right. We'll make those adjustments. I don't know how you are able to move things around and get back that minute later, but you somehow do.
I usually take it away from Luke's clock. It just doesn't notice. I'm just always shaving minutes off of his stuff.
I'm watching that clock.
Final announcements are what we all play with the final announcements. It's like, we're gonna give you 2 minutes at the end. That's our play, right?
Seth, I'll let you kind of have that final word. What resources, thoughts, podcasts? I don't know if you want to mention any of this.
It's fun for me because I like to be a student of moments, and it's like I can literally recall some of the very first conferences I ever went to and some of those moments that stood out to me. So I'm always trying to pursue those. They don't always have to come from the traditional event format. I just took my family to a concert last week in San Diego, and the whole time while we were enjoying it, I was like stealing ideas. I was like, "Oh, that's brilliant! This is great!" Or I feel a certain way. How do they do that? And that's really what I look for, is like the different emotions that can be created in a room full of people. That it's because someone designed it, and so I try to take away those principles. Maybe not the idea, but just that value of like, oh, I'd love to replicate this in another setting. Like we live close to Disneyland. My kids go there, so talk about intentionality in their storytelling. I'm always just like looking for how do they do this, how they do this. And so I'm just kind of a student that way. There's podcasts that I love to listen to on comedy that I just like I love to enjoy the creative work and the creative process, and that's a lot of times why I just love working with brilliantly creative people who are great to collaborate with. There are people that can be an energy drain, and that's I've found that can backfire in my process. So I've just learned like there's certain folks I want to bring into that process as I'm a student of moments, and I think that then helps bring the strongest product forward.
I have my hand up. I want to ask a question to you, actually.
I didn't know we could put our hand up.
I know. I think that when people ask me about doing a creative conference, it's intimidating. And I always share like, oh, I know this guy named Luke. He does a creative conference, and he does it really, really well. And I know y'all think the budget's got to be crazy.
Yeah.
And I would imagine it's intimidating to try to continually create every year, have a room full of professional creatives enter in and know they're judging every single thing. They can see everything.
That's right.
Yeah. Like the transitions,
they
all
take
the
pictures in front of house before we do it.
Exactly. When you're doing this, like why do you love doing this so much? And what have you learned in all these years of continuing to evolve?
I think my first reaction to that is early on, and Seth can speak to this because he probably even saw this in some of the early days he was there, and even before he was in the role, I can speak a lot to the encouragement environment he makes and the sort of wooing side that he's got. But I used to suck on stage because I was so analytical to how are people perceiving me, or how are people perceiving this moment? Is it working? And I was too caught up in the like micro that I missed the macro. And I think I flipped the script to say, how can I leverage this moment to love on that community the best as possible?
Yep.
And I think that I don't get too caught up. I actually love it when people critique. Nick Rivero, one of the co-founders of SALT, and I used to say that like it is the best audience in the world to create something for, because they're one of the hardest audiences to create something for. Like if they laugh, you know you did it.
You earned it.
Because they are pretty critical and cynical at times.
Yeah.
Or they see everything, right? Like
they're
in our world.
Do.
Yes. And they can probably do it better. And I do think, and I have no science behind this, but I do think what I've seen is the more that my empathy level can go up and I can just stand on that stage and go, how do I love them in this moment? How do I care for them while I'm saying these announcements? And let them see my heart for this community when I speak, not just read off of a piece of paper or get these bullet points. I think I receive that back too.
Yep.
And so to your point, like you make this connection with an audience, and so I'm far more comfortable today getting up. In fact, year one, I would not get up on stage.
Yeah.
Like my pits would get so
No way.
wet. Oh
So
yeah.
natural.
And now I'm just like, I love these, and they're my
Yeah.
people, and I've gotten to know them. In fact, one of the things I was really keen on a couple years ago was I wanted to go and meet as many people as I could, because if I felt like I knew them, and you kind of taught me this when you early came on, the more I know the people in the room, the less I'm worried about what they're thinking about me.
Yeah.
Because now I've created a relationship. So now I'm having a conversation with friends, not someone that I need to perform for,
That's right.
do something for. So
Special.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal what you've been able to cultivate here. It's truly, I always say on stage, it's not a conference, it's a community. But you have somehow been able to foster a community that I think people come back year after year because they're like, these are my people. And they're like-minded. And yeah, we're all in this together.
Well, you guys are such a key and pivotal part of our main sessions. I'm so glad that you finally said yes to this. For a couple of years, I'm like, we got to get us on the podcast.
We could have given all the dirt. We could have given y'all all the dirt that you didn't know about, but we decided to play nice.
Yeah. Next time.
Next time on the next episode.
All right. Thank you guys for being here.
Thanks for having us.